Anyway, let's get to the U.S. aid part of this process.
That all the people are in.
Now, U.S. aid, like this is yet another instance where, like, again, Trump is doing something that, like, I feel like it's something that under different circumstances I might not have even had an issue with. But of course, the way he's doing it and why he's doing it is entirely separate. This is why I call him JD Pondon. U.S. aid in and of itself is obviously, openly, not even like a secret, a very important aspect of the American State Department. They do international development. Now, it is oftentimes masked as humanitarian aid, but there's plenty of aid that it actually offers. The CIA, for example, opening up or helping develop the infrastructure for civil society organizations and whatnot that actually create an easier ground of destabilization and even potentially, further intervention later down the line. Having said that, however, there is a lot of good that this organization does in the process as well. It's an important aspect of American soft power.
It was an independent agency started by President John F. Kennedy at the height of the Cold War.
The conquest of poverty.
A way of countering Soviet influence by providing billions of dollars in U.S. humanitarian, development, and economic aid.
It's its own agency, not under the State Department? Yeah. Come on, chatter. First of all, every agency that touches American foreign policy is still controlled by the American State Department. Why do you think Anthony Blinken gets U.S. aid memos as the Secretary of State and then lies about the memos that he got about the genocide that is ongoing in Gaza from the U.S. aid department?
Around the world to those most in need. At least it did, until Donald Trump decided he didn't like those running it.
It's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. And then we'll make a decision.
But by this morning, the decision had been made and the agency shut down, seemingly by Trump's self-appointed efficiency czar, Elon Musk, who said on X with no evidence, USAID is a criminal organization. Time for it to die. And that followed a confrontation over the weekend where two of the agency's top security officials were removed from the building after refusing to give Musk's staff access to restricted areas.
What we have here is not an apple with a worm in it.
I truly don't understand how or why the Trump administration is doing a bunch of this stuff that dismantles American foreign policy, because it doesn't make sense, okay? This is akin to saying we are going to dismantle NATO. NATO is a demonstration of American soft power and hard power. NATO is profoundly beneficial to our military-industrial complex. I see that as a bad thing. U.S. aid, in a similar vein, plays a formative role in American soft power globally. Sometimes it actually does a bunch of good, right, in places that are underserved. But ultimately, the reason why this department exists is not because America's woke and wants to help combat HIV in Africa, for example, or they want to genuinely improve the literacy rates globally. They don't want that shit. They don't care. They don't care about that at all. They want to have influence on the ground with real citizens, with actual nationals of that foreign state. So it works at the behest of American foreign policy, just like NATO does. And it also works at genuinely destabilizing a lot of our foreign adversaries. So while it does good, there's also a lot of bad that it does. But regardless of the good and the bad, it's still ultimately working at the behest of American empire. So I don't understand why Donald Trump would work to undermine that, especially as someone who's like, America's number one. We gotta reassert our dominance around the globe. Why the would you take a tool out of the tool belt and throw it in the trash in that process? A cool thing USA did. Oh, excuse me. They were improving literacy rates in Taliban controlled areas of Afghanistan. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you didn't want people to learn math and in madrasas, specifically with textbooks that blatantly promoted jihad, militancy, and violence through graphic language and imagery. The textbook including clear messages aimed at evoking hostility towards Russian invaders and promoting violent retribution against occupiers of Afghanistan. Textbooks designed to teach children to read in basic mathematics, simultaneously emphasizing weaponry, killings, jihad, and Islamism. My dream is to get one of these textbooks. No, it's jihad math. I'm not even joking. Yes, and it was created in the United States of America. Learning the alphabet, these children are taught. Jim is for jihad. Jihad is an obligation. My uncle went to jihad. Our brothers gave water to the mujahideen. Textbooks designed to teach math and language are filled with depictions of Kalashnikov rifles, grenades, and military ammunition. However, the great irony is that these textbooks were produced, funded, and distributed by the U.S. government using taxpayer dollars. The Taliban regime, which President Bush deplored as an enemy which aids terrorists and barbaric criminals who profane a great religion by committing murder in its name, is using and reprinting American-funded materials to propagate its radical ideology among the Afghan youth. Why would the United States fund textbooks that promote a dangerous message antithetical to American values? By the way, apparently some of these books are still very much circulated in Afghanistan to this day. USAID-sponsored school textbooks taught Afghan children to count 1 machine gun, 2 knives, 3 pistols to fight against the Russian infidel. I need one of these textbooks so bad. All right, let's continue.
But we have actually just a bowl of worms. And USAID is a bowl of worms. Mm-hmm. There is no apple. And when there is no apple, you've just got to basically get rid of the whole thing.
US aid represents less than 1% of the federal budget, and yet President Trump, advised by Elon Musk, has decided it's been taken over by radical liberals who are spending billions of dollars worth of taxpayer money on projects that don't tally with Trump's America First agenda.
Like, that's what I see. This is what doesn't make sense. USAID is America First agenda. What is going on? This action, unironically, is against the expansion of American empire. Do they simply look at this and go, we should privatize this as well? Like, I don't understand it. I genuinely don't get it. Unless these guys are like undercover Maoists and they just want to dismantle the American empire piece by piece, it doesn't make any sense why they're doing this. I truly don't get it. Like, were the MAGA communists right? Is this a thing? Am I so delusional that I just could not comprehend it? Is JD Pondon not a meme, but instead the reality in front of my eyes? What the hell is going on? Or are they so stupid that they think like the U.S. aid actually does what it claims it does, which is aid foreign nations that are underserved, and they just racistly hate that, and they don't realize the true purpose of it, so they're just trying to pick it apart for scraps. Like, they think we're doing DEI in these countries. We're like forcing DEI in these countries, which is ironic because I thought DEI initiatives were a bad thing. So wouldn't you be undermining those countries by doing DEI if you hate these countries? Isn't that a good thing? None of it makes sense.
So they're shutting it down and reorganizing, and other spending in departments could go the same way.
Hank the Tank, you think China, CIA first, wrong? Nothing can stop what's coming. You think China needs help from the U.S.? What do you mean China needs help? I don't think China needs help from the U.S. I think the U.S. is helping China without realizing. I think Donald Trump is... I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing, by the way, but I do think that the United States is actually developing multipolarity right now, like every step of the way. It's so funny because liberals used to post like Maoist Trump as an own. We do that as a positive here in this community, right? And what conservatives like Hank the Tank don't understand is that like what Donald Trump is doing is actually undermining your, I guess, like your worldview. But like I've said, Sun Tzu, never interrupt your opponent when he's in the process of making a mistake.
Contract workers who turned up at the agency today were visibly shaken by Musk's seemingly unfettered power.
I think everyone's shocked. I think everyone knew that there would be a clash of ideals and that there would be a clash of systems and values, but no one expected this. What is happening now through people like Elon Musk, there is no mandate for that. There is no mandate, and I think it's incredibly jarring to watch.
This is all scary. I also don't think that Trump has control over the White House anymore. It's now Elon Musk, and we've seen that in the way that he's just blatantly taken over.
By the way, yeah, for everybody that was like constantly talking about Russiagate, turns out it wasn't Russiagate, it was Chinagate all along. My man went to the Forbidden Palace and it changed his life, dude. It changed the way he sees the world. The grand plan was always for the Chinese century of prosperity.
US aid is continuing to run emergency food programs in places like Gaza, while Musk's team carries out massive cuts, and the rump will likely be...
Why is everyone shocked that this is happening? We've all been saying this would happen if Trump won. The reason why I'm personally shocked about these kinds of initiatives is because I get the concentration camp stuff, right? Even though it's a self-own, even though it harms the American economy, even though it will lead to inevitable increase in prices like hyperinflation. But as far as like Trump doing this actually undermines America and America's influence around the globe.
Assumed into the State Department. Trump insisted today that Musk wouldn't make any decisions without his approval.
But he does have a good natural instinct. He's got a team of very talented people. We're trying to shrink government, and he can probably shrink it as well as anybody else, if not better.
Never mind that U.S. aid was established by an act of Congress, and only Congress, in theory, can dismantle it.
The other thing is, like, I don't think that like American interference is going away. That's the other side of the story. They might shut down U.S. aid, but something similar to it will always exist. Maybe it's a method change. One of the things that is a little bit different with the way Republicans do things, with the way the Republicans operate, is that they're very blunt. Yeah, this chatter is correct. It may be all stick, no carrot. No more dangling carrot, no more covert influence operations, no more psyops. Just straight, what you see is what you get. We're taking it, and there's not a thing you can do about it. That could potentially be the difference here. It's less covert influence and more overt influence. I assume that will be the modus operandi of this government. Perhaps privatization of this government agency, offering these to contractors and outsourcing it to private enterprise to engage in these sorts of covert operations. Perhaps it'll be centralized directly under the State Department, under the CIA. I don't know. There's a statement from the State Department 4 hours ago. The United States Agency for International Development USAID has long strayed from its original mission of responsibly advancing American interests abroad, and it is now abundantly clear that significant portions of USAID funding are not aligned with the core national interests of the United States. As an interim step towards gaining control and better understanding over the agency's activity, President Donald J. Trump appointed Secretary Marco Rubio as acting administrator. See, that's what I mean. First of all, you think Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who is like the #1 China hawk and Mr. CIA, is going to turn around and all of a sudden be like, we're pulling a JFK. We're picking apart USAID piece by piece. Do you see what I'm saying? Secretary Rubio was confirmed by the entirety of the Senate, by the way, 99 votes in favor of his confirmation. Secretary Rubio has now also notified Congress that a review of USAID's foreign assistance activities is underway with an eye towards potential reorganization. As we evaluate USAID and ensure its alignment with an America First agenda and the efforts of the State Department, we will continue to protect the American people's interests and ensure tax dollars are not wasted. No, Bernie wasn't even the fucking holdout. He voted for it too. I forget who was like the person who abstained. The way I foresee this is they take out all the soft power stuff and just keep hard power all the way and become an increasingly more militant version of itself, not realizing that soft power plays a role in military might. Something that I've repeated over and over again is that without soft power, without America maintaining its prominent position as like the top diplomat, without being the global leader of any kind of intervention and any kind of initiatives, 800 military bases all of a sudden can very quickly, almost overnight, turn into 800 different military invasions. Security cooperative agreements can turn into direct boots on the ground military warfare. And that can happen very quickly. The only thing that aesthetically keeps that as a security cooperative agreement and not like direct military invasion and direct military occupation is the attitude that these countries have towards the United States of America. Do you understand? It's something that I've mentioned quite a bit in this past year because of Israel, because of America's hardline approach to Israel, which the Biden administration certainly accelerated.
Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency have promised to take a wrecking ball to the federal government, vowing to cut trillions of dollars in spending and to dramatically reduce the number of government employees. Now we have learned that his team has gained access to something extraordinarily sensitive, the system that the Treasury Department uses to disperse almost every check and expenditure of any kind made by the U.S. government. Sources tell ABC News that Elon Musk's team now has access to the Treasury Department's payment system, essentially the government's checkbook, which processes trillions of dollars in payments and includes personal information for hundreds of millions of Americans. The access was granted over the weekend over the objection of at least one senior Treasury Department official who has been put on leave. Neither the White House nor Treasury Department has responded.
Did Elon Musk find these guys on Twitter? by the way. They're all Thiel Blood Boys and SpaceX interns. Nice. Very cool that a bunch of groiped up shouties are now tasked with undermining federal agencies. It's craziness. Here's a list of techies on the ground helping Musk gaining and using access to the U.S. Treasury payment system. Akash Baba, Edward Kirstein, Luke Ferrador, Gautier Cole Killian, Gavin Klieger, Ethan Showatron. I feel like none of these are real names. That feels fake, but you have committed a crime. Not boom, lasered. This man. Not only is this incredibly scary and untrue, it's not a crime, but Elon and libs of TikTok have been exposing queer and trans federal employees for years, opening them up to all kinds of harassment and threats. This man is an out and proud fascist, so nothing should be surprising anymore, but still incredibly disturbing to see someone who holds so much unilateral power just censor and call any speech he doesn't like a crime. Trump's DC U.S. attorney says that any threats, confrontations, or other actions in any way that impacts what Elon Musk people are doing will be investigated by his office, since that may break numerous laws. You're going to have Elon's goons pick apart the federal government, and if you even criticize them, you're going to jail. That's awesome. Right-wingers are complaining that Wired reported the names of DOGE employees. I don't understand. Aren't these guys tasked with very serious jobs within the government? Like, that's not unmasking or doxing someone. That's insane. That's like saying you doxed JD Vance because you reported what his name actually is, which is John Don Jedediah Vance. These are public servants, man. What are we doing? So the private information of every American is now in the hands of 6 guys not old enough to rent a car. Wired has identified 6 young men, all apparently between the ages of 19 and 24, according to public databases, their online presence and other records, who have little to no government experience and are now playing critical roles in Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE project, tasked by the executive order with modernizing federal technology and software to maximize governmental efficiency and productivity. The engineers all hold nebulous job titles within DOGE, and at least one appears to be working as a volunteer. The engineers are Akash Baba, Edward Korstein, Luke Ferrador, Gautier Cole Killian, Gavin Klieger, and Ethan Showatron, which, again, I maintain the position that these are not real names. What the f***? I've never encountered names like this before in my life. None have responded to the request for comment from Wired. Representatives from OPM, GSA, and DOGE did not respond to requests for comment. Apparently, one of them is the 19-year-old might be Canadian, which makes it even funnier. It's not a crime at all, and it's not against TOS at all. He supported another account who named them. Wait, what? Luke being in charge of our money is an incredible shift. I didn't know this was an option. Amazing development. Wait, so this guy literally posted their faces and their names, and Elon let it slide because it's one of his dick riders. These are the guys who are going to cut your social security, baby. Get excited. Dudes who can't even rent a car. Oh my Lord, holy moly. What an incredible moment in history. America, you are out of control. Just wanted to point this as well. New archive tweets for Gavin Klieger, Musk's 20-something DOGE employee, wreaking havoc inside of USAID, shows that Klieger has retweeted multiple neo-Nazis, including Nick Fuentes, leader of the so-called Groiper movement, and another popular explicit Nazi account recently unmasked by Travis Brown. We are literally Groiperizing the American federal government. Gavin Klieger, Elon's DOGE Hitler Youth shutting down USAID, is now indirectly responsible for the deaths of thousands of children. His Instagram appears to be G. Klieger. He's scrubbing his online footprint. Full thread with screen caps and more Nazi connections. Oh, sign in required. I don't have a Blue Sky account. It is wild that these guys are like openly groiped up too.
Elon can't do and won't do anything without our approval, and we'll give him the approval where appropriate. Where not appropriate, we won't. But he reports in, and it's something that he feels very strongly about, and I'm impressed because he's running obviously a big company. It has nothing to do if there's a conflict that we won't let him get near it. But he does have a good natural instinct. He's got a team of very talented people. We're trying to shrink government, and he can probably shrink.
Oh, yeah. No, if there's a conflict, we won't let him anywhere near it, dude. Totally. He's tasked with basically undermining every federal regulatory agency, and virtually all of them have at some point prosecuted Elon Musk for direct violations of the law. Every single regulatory agency that Elon has complete control over has, at a certain point in time or currently, tasked with regulating one of his companies. Every single one. It is insane to say that if there's a conflict of interest, we'll deal with it. Like, no, you won't. It is all a conflict of interest. Dude, putting Elon Musk in any capacity in charge of the federal regulatory agencies, like putting a arsonist in charge of the fire department and then claiming, well, he's got a lot of experience, Elon. He's dealt with these guys quite a bit. Greatest arsonist on the planet. Many fires started. You want a guy like that to combat the fires. He knows how to start them. He knows how to end them. Lots of experience from the standpoint of fire. Much experience.
But after midnight last night, billionaire Elon Musk talked about his efforts to shake up the government on his social media platform, X.
There's already been really tremendous progress. We've, a rough estimate is that there's at least a few $1 billion a day of savings.
One of Musk's top targets, USAID, the federal government's foreign aid agency.
As we dug into USAID, it became apparent that what we have here is not an apple with a worm in it, but we have actually just a bowl of worms.
On Friday night, a DOGE team showed up at the USAID offices in Washington and demanded access, sources familiar with the incident tell ABC News. After a standoff, security guards ultimately led them in. Now, more than 100 USAID staffers have been placed on leave. Many more have been locked out of internal systems, and the organization's Trump-appointed chief of staff has resigned. USAID's $43 billion budget is a tiny fraction of federal spending, about 1%. But its support is a critical lifeline for people in need around the world, all while spreading American goodwill. Combating malaria, for example, an effort estimated to have saved nearly 12 million lives.
Not everything the USA does is bad. That's a great example of this. Spreading American goodwill is done for a nefarious purpose, but it's still actually helping people. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? And I suspect that they're just gonna only spread American ill will and cut out the good stuff. No more covert operations, no more influence peddling. Just straight, you do this or you die. Should China pick up the goodwill? China already has been doing that. Remember, in the Philippines, China sent a ton of Sinovac to the Philippines during the peak of COVID. And what did the American government do? The American CIA and the American State Department basically said, oh, this is not good. China's actually doing soft power stuff. We don't like it. Instead of actually sending, I don't know, our own COVID pharmaceuticals to the Philippines, we decided to task the agency with undermining the Filipino confidence in vaccines in general. And we spent millions of dollars and used bots to basically get Filipino people to mistrust vaccines. We made them more anti-vaxxer. We made them anti-vax. So look forward to more initiatives like that. Is there an article on it? Yes, there's a Reuters article that someone in the chat immediately linked. When I mention stuff, chatters, usually my editors will slap it on to the video on YouTube. But when I'm mentioning something off Top Dome, like I'm mentioning things that I've read and investigated on this broadcast, contrary to what my haters claim, if their own ineptitude causes them to not be able to figure out these things that I'm talking about, I mean, they should probably seek a little bit deeper and try to figure out where this information is coming from, instead of simply saying Hasan just lies and he's wrong all the time. They will just call your fact-dropping lies and refuse to look it up themselves, I know.
USAID officials have often been first to arrive with disaster relief, providing food, water, shelter, and health care to allies and partners. And this just in, USAID employees are waking up this morning to an email notice telling them not to show up to work today, as Musk says he is shutting the agency down. All of this, George, is happening over the loud objections of Democratic leaders in Congress who say that Elon Musk simply does not have the authority to do.
Oh my God. The Five, Musk says USAID is a criminal organization.
Crisis that we are in today.
Just like Elon Musk did not create USAID, he doesn't have the power to destroy it. And who's going to stop him?
Are you? I have no confidence in these guys getting their shit together.
We are.
This is what the beginning of dictatorship looks like.
Angry Democrats throwing a hissy fit after Elon Musk dropped the DOGE hammer on the Hunter Biden of government agencies. It's called USAID.
The Hunter Biden of government agencies.
But the Trump administration argues it has become a clown car of corruption. And Musk sums it up this way, quote, USAID is a criminal organization. Time for it to die. So Musk had a busy weekend too, Greg.
USAID is not about aid any more than the Marx Brothers wrote the Communist Manifesto. It's just the name, but it tricks you. And if you're lazy like me, you just assume, oh, it's all about aid. Basically, seems to me like it's a front group that gives money to groups to do things that our government can't do directly.
Right.
So it sounds a lot like NGOs and illegal immigration. All that money was going there. And if you look at what they're connected to, you find out that USAID also doubles back into our country, whether it's Soros-funded prosecutors. Of course, the worst thing, EcoHealth Alliance, which was behind the COVID virus, and perhaps the pro-Hamas protesters who we're still trying to figure out the money. So I like to look at who's complaining and then work.
USAID is supporting Hamas and also Hamas protesters. What is this? This is
over the past several years. These are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk...
I don't get it. Isn't it good to like make these countries trans? Like, I don't understand. Like, if DEI is bad, isn't it good that we're undermining all of these other countries by making them more queer? Like, what's happening here? We don't want to find... I was joking when I said USA does DEI globally, but it turns out that it's literally what they're saying.